Pesachim Daf Pei Gimel. Today's email comes from Reb Chaim Farkish. Dear Reb Eli, I'm writing to you from Tel Aviv, Iraq Kodesh. You'll be happy to know there are also Tayeri Yidden who are enjoying your Daf Yomi shir. I was introduced to your shir by my brother Dov in Melbourne, Australia. We love Dov Farkish and thoroughly enjoy it. I wish to especially thank you for your word on the Chol Asher L'Reyecha, which was credited as per attached on YouTube under, I think it is Chaim Farkish, but one thing I can say, you said it over better than I did. So thank you, Reb Chaim. The Gemara tells us that according to Rabbi Yochanan, there's still machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Ben Broiken and the Tanakama, even in a case where a person became tamei after the Zrikas Hadam of the Korban Pesach, where the problem is in the bailim and the owner. Still machlokes, when do you burn the Korban Pesach? Do you burn it immediately on the 14th, or do you burn it on the 16th? And the Gemara tells us it's just like Rabbi Yochanan holds in Rabbi Nechemiah. Rabbi Nechemiah is of the opinion, as we mentioned yesterday, the chatas of Aaron HaKohen, Moshe Rabbeinu says, why did you burn the chatas? You're supposed to eat it. Rabbi Nechemiah says that what was going on that day, there was a problem of aninos. Aaron HaKohen was a oinan, Nadav Avihu had just died that day. And therefore Aaron HaKohen decided whatever he did has to be burnt. But once again, aninos is a problem not in the carbon itself, it's a side problem. Yet Aaron HaKohen burnt it right away. Rabbi says, even Rabbi Yisai Glili holds that if there's a side problem, you burn it right away. The pasuk b'chol chatos is referring to chatos pnimis. There's two types of chatos. You have like a par helm davar that you perform the avodah of the chatos inside the heichal. That's a chatos pnimis. Typically, you have a chatos chitzono. Typical chatos goes in the azara. So the chatos pnimis that became puzzle, where do you burn it? In the migdash, not outside of the three machnos. And if you eat it, you get a lav. The chatos chitzono, regular chatos, that you take the blood and you bring it inside, then you have to burn it, hein lehuva as dama, like we had yesterday with Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron HaKohen. Although this blood that you brought inside the Kodesh HaKodashim is not a psul in the actual carbon. It's a side psul. Yet, when do you burn it? Immediately. Rabbi Yochanan will say, the reason why I didn't include Rabbi Yisai Glili in this whole picture is because blood is part and parcel with the carbon. It's one, it's the carbon, the psul was in the carbon. You cannot bring a raya from blood to the owner. Says a brand new Mishnah. The bones of the Korban Pesach, the gidin, the sinews, and noisar, you have to burn on the 16th. But if the 16th, which is the first day of Chol Hamoed, falls out on a Shabbos, burning these things do not push off Shabbos, and therefore we burn it on the 17th. Rabbi Yitzchok says that the bones of noisar become tamei to the hands. The actual bone itself has two parts. You have the inside marrow, that's food, and that's noisar. Then you have the outside, the harder shell of the bone, and that becomes a basis for the noisar, and therefore becomes tamei like the noisar itself. We cannot bring a raya from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says you have to burn the bones. The reason why you have to burn the bones is not because it's tamei, but rather it has noisar inside. It's still usher to break open a bone. It says etzem le'sishburu bo, you're not allowed to break the bone. Even when it becomes possible from noisar, you're not allowed to break it open and remove the marrow. And that's why you have to burn the bone. But we see in a brisa that if you have a puzzle bone and you break it open, you don't get malchus. We have to explain that's because there's a distinction between shasa kosher and something that didn't have a shasa kosher. In other words, that bone of that brisa is talking about a bone that not even for 1 minute was it roila achila. Didn't have a shasa kosher. How do you see that distinction? You see it in Rabbi Yaakov. The Tanakhama says, Etzem le'sishburu is talking about a kosher bone, not a puzzle bone. Comes Rabbi Yaakov and explains the difference is puzzle means that it never had a shasa kosher, and that's why you're not chayiv. But if it had a shasa kosher, if it was once right to eat, then you are chayiv. And Rabbi Shimon argues and he says there's never an isser of breaking a bone when it's puzzle. The Brisa says that the bones of kachim, a regular carbon, don't need sreifa. The problem is, why not? A regular bone of a carbon has bone marrow inside. It's real food. So it was left overnight, you should have to burn it. So the Gemara gives us a number of answers. Answer number one from Rav Nachman Yitzchak, in fact, you're right. A typical bone you would have to burn. We're talking about that he removed the marrow. And there's no issue to break a regular carbon's bone and remove the marrow. Rav Zvit says, what happened was he found a pile of bones, a number of pile of bones. And the bones that he sees look like the marrow was removed. So we could assume that the rest of the pile, the marrow was removed because there's no issue to remove the marrow. However, if the same case happened with the Korban Pesach, we cannot assume that. since it's an isser to break the bone open, so that pile has marrow in it, and you have to burn it. Rav says all sinews can be used as meat. In other words, if people register for your carbon, you can count them in, relying on that they're going to eat a kazais of sinews, besides the sinews of the neck. They are not edible, they don't count as meat. From our Mishnah, there's no raya that neck sinews are meat, and that's why you have to burn it, because it could be we're talking about in the Mishnah the sinews of the Gid HaNasha. As Rabbi Yehuda says, the sinew of the Gid HaNasha is only on one leg, and it makes sense logically it's the right leg. But since I'm a suffix, I don't know which leg it is. It could be the right, it could be the left. So you can't throw either of them out. You have to burn both of them. But don't prove from here that Rabbi Yehuda was in fact in a suffix, because on that we could say he knew exactly that it's the right one, and he knew how to distinguish between the right and the left. Just later on it got mixed up. So in this case we have a mix-up, and that's why you have to burn both. Rav Ashi says the reason why you have to burn it is because we're talking about the fat of the Gid HaNasha. Fat of the Gid HaNasha you could in fact eat. They took upon themselves extra chumrah, and they said you should not eat the fat of the Gid, and that's why you burn it after the Zman. You let it become nicer, and then you burn. Ravina says when it comes to the Gid, there's two Gid HaNashas. There's an inner one and an outer one. The one that's closer to the bone, that's the one you get malchus on. The one that's closer to the outside of the animal, there's no malchus. Yet, we burn it. We don't eat it, we burn it. We learned in the Mishnah that if the 16th, the first day of the Chalamayit, falls out on Shabbos, you don't push off Shabbos to burn the Noisar and the other things. Why not? Why don't we say, Esa Doicha Loisase? Number of answers. Chizkiah says, since the Pasuk says Ad Boiker twice, it's coming to tell us that there's a second morning, the second time it says Ad Boiker, second morning, that's when you burn it. Abai says, when the Pasuk says Oila Shabbos, there's only one Oila that you burn on Shabbos, and that's the Oila of Shabbos itself. But the Oila of a weekday and anything else is never burnt on Shabbos, never pushes off a Shabbos. And Rava says, it says in the Pasuk, Kulevali Yoselachem, who comes to say, and not the Machshirim, Levadoi comes to exclude Mila Shaloi Bezmana. If there's no Mila, I could learn Mila on Kavachayim that should push off Shabbos from Tziras and Avodah. Yet from this Pasuk we say that if it's the baby was born 9 days ago, 10 days ago, you don't push off Shabbos. So too, anything that's a mitzvah like that that's not Bezmana, you don't do on Shabbos, doesn't push off Shabbos, therefore we don't burn it on Shabbos. And Rav Ashi says, Shabbosin that says by Yontif adds another assay. So it's not an Esa Doicha Loisase, but rather it's an Esa Doicha Loisase assay, which certainly doesn't push it off. Have a wonderful day.